Hives. I'm Jason Chrisman of JC's Bees. Today we're going to discuss the basic components of a hive and what you would need to get started come spring. So let's begin. We'll break this hive down to the bottom board and talk about each piece and how it's used and where it would go. We'll begin with the hive bottom, the bottom board. And this one here happens to be screened. There are several styles of these screened bottom boards. Some have full screen, some only are partially screened. This one I made myself. The benefits to the screened bottom: ventilation to the colony. Also helps control varroa mites a little bit. The varroa mite will fall off of the worker bees as they cleanse and fall through this screen onto a sticky board, which beekeepers slide under here for the mites to drop on and get a count. But that's further on down the road in your journey to get started beekeeping. We'll work on the basics. Now there is, like I said, there are several variations to this. There is also this style, which you can see has no ventilation. It's just solid wood at the bottom. This works fine. A lot of beekeepers believe come winter they need to put these on to keep the bees warm. Cold does not kill bees, moisture does. The air circulating throughout the colony keeps the condensation down in the hive. Okay, there's one other thing I'd like to point out before we move on. Now, as you may have noticed when I had this bottom board off, the landing pad stayed behind. And that's because of this separate setup, and this is called a hive stand. Not all hives have this. And how they get away with not having this is they have a bottom board like this, which the running pad is built onto the bottom board. It's all one piece. You do not need this separate piece. A lot of my hives are set up this way. Majority of them are. And here's another screen bottom where the screen covers the whole bottom. Lots of ventilation. But I wanted to point that out real quick before we moved on. It's called a hive stand. I don't know that it's the appropriate term. So from here, we're going to add on a brood chamber. Now within this deep, you're going to notice several things. You're going to notice that there's frames, and then there's this thing. And this thing is a frame feeder. And we'll go over that on down the road in this series when we talk about feeders. Now the frames, that's what these are. There'll be 10 of these in every box, with the exception of this one because of the feeder. Now I always stick my feeder in the bottom brood chamber because that's where they're going to be first and start building up. So let's remove one of these frames and take a look at it. This one here has wax foundation on it. This wax foundation, as you can see, has wires running through it. There's a few different styles of this foundation, and you'll find it at your local bee supply. You do not have to set your frames up with this wax foundation. You have other choices. Here we have a Pergo plastic foundation that the bees will draw wax out on. This is an option too. If you're not wanting to use wax at all and you want to try and do this cheap as possible, you have another option. You can go foundationless, and that's where you need to put nothing in here except for a strip of wood. And these videos on these frames will be linked to the end of this video so you can understand more on how to set your frames up. Okay, so we've talked about the frames, we've spoke a little bit about the feeder and the size of the bottom brood box. So now let's go on and continue. So let's say you're ordering bees come spring. This is the area you're going to want to install your package. You'll pull out a few frames, dump your package in there, put the frames back in, install your queen, and then you'll add your inner cover and your outer lid. And that'll be it until the colony starts to grow and fill that box. And you would probably want to insert your entrance reducer, but I would recommend in the spring you start with this one and watch them for a couple days. If you start to see that it's clustering up, they're having a hard time getting in and out, flip to the bigger one. And then after a month or so, maybe a month and a half, just remove this. And then you'll want to reinstall it come fall. Now as they grow and start to fill that box, you're going to want to give them plenty of room. Okay, as you can see here now, I've added my second deep hive body. Now, there are several variations to this. Some people might prefer a deep on the bottom, a medium up next for their brood chamber. Once these boxes start to get full, it's going to be time to start thinking about supers and getting them ready. Now, what do you need before you put on a super? A queen excluder. What is an excluder? An excluder lets the workers up through, but not the queen. The queen is trapped below because she cannot fit through these holes. So this would sit up here, and then your supers would go on top of that. Now there is a few different styles of these you're going to see when you start to do your search on your hive equipment. You have the plastic one. Here we have a wood one. It has metal strips for the bees to get through in between, and then it has wood. This is a nice excluder too. Do I have a preference between the two of them? No, I do not. So we'll go ahead and place the excluder on the hive. Now we're starting to see the colony build up pretty quick, so we've added our super. And the super, the bees have drawn out comb that they store honey in. This is the surplus honey. This is the honey that the beekeeper usually takes at the end of the year, leaving anything below the excluder. And if there's not enough below the excluder, then you're going to have to feed. So as they start to get full, you would just add another one and another one. This is an inner cover lid. This goes on the inside, just like that, to close up the hive. And then you've got your outer cover, just like so. Okay, so now let's say we go all the way through summer and fall's starting to approach. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to remove your super, remove your excluder, replace the inner cover on top of the brood chamber, and then what I like to do, just so my excluder is there come next season, is I'll lay it on top of the inner cover, and then my lid. Now my hive is ready for winter. You're going to want to check with your local county extension office and see if you can find a local bee group or beekeeper that you can communicate with and see how they overwinter their bees. They might have a different configuration. They might have a deep and a medium. So this is kind of crucial, and a little bit of extra side work you're going to have to do to prepare your bees for winter. So this is the basic equipment you'll need to get started to get you one colony going and enjoy some honeybees. Begin your journey beekeeping. Now, to buy a kit with a bottom board, 2 deeps, an excluder, and 2 mediums for supers, an inner cover and a lid, you know, the basic equipment I ran over here today with frames, you're looking at about $300, and that can be kind of pricey. Especially time you throw in a package of bees, if that's how you're going to get started. There's another $100. Now you're talking $400 to buy a package of bees and a colony, a hive. So that can be kind of pricey. So if you're handy in the wood shop, you might consider building this equipment. It can be really enjoyable and can save you a lot of money. Probably build the equipment for 1/3 of the cost. So if you're interested in building your own equipment, I'll leave a link down below the video where it says show more with detailed prints on each of these. So if you're ready to move on, now we'll talk about feeders. And thanks for watching JC's Bees.